In this video, we are doing a final mix of our project here in Logic Pro for iPad. If you've been following along, we wrote, created, recorded, mixed, mastered, and now we're going to do our final mix of my song called One Moment. If you want some more bite-sized tutorials, they're down in the description. If you want to follow along and catch the earlier episodes of this series, also down in the description. But in this one, we're going to be doing a final mix. And you may be saying, Pete, how do you do a final mix after you've done a master? Well, that's kind of the beauty part of Logic Pro for iPad, because we have a stereo out track and we've already added a limiter to our stereo out track and done the mastering, and you can check that out in the previous video. So what we can now do is we can still do some final tweaks, and look, we may have to go back and adjust the loudness and the limiter on the final stereo out at the end, but we've got an opportunity here now to make some of the changes, because what I do at this point of a project is I go and listen to it. So I've listened to this in the car, on the headphones and the earbuds, on speakers, and I've found the things that I want to change. There's not a lot, but there's a few things that I just want to tweak to make this sound the best it possibly can after listening to it a bunch of times. So what I do, and your mileage may vary, but what I do is I make notes. I use OneNote. You can use whatever note-taking you like, a pad and paper, or you can use your notes app on your phone or whatever. And I've made these 7 different notes here of things that I wanted to tweak, that I wanted to play around with in this mix to see if it can sound the best it possibly can. So for me, I've said here that the snare is a bit too harsh. It needs to be more brushy, because this is kind of a laid back kind of tune. I want to automate the vocal up on the low parts. I'll show you what that means in a minute. I want to remove the cello during the guitar solo, or at least experiment with that. More reverb on the lead vocals, no step downs in the viola at the end of the bridge, and maybe no cello during the guitar solo. Look, I've made that one twice, so we're down to 6 changes. We can delete that one out because I made the same note twice. So definitely want to get rid of that cello during the guitar solo. More reverb on the drums. So they're all of the notes that I've made myself, the mix notes, and now I'm going to take those mix notes and actually make the changes here. Now, what some people do is they'll be listening and they'll be mixing and making their changes as they go. I highly recommend stepping completely away from your digital audio workstation, in this case Logic Pro, and doing those changes, of listening and making note of those changes and then coming back and doing them. Otherwise, you tend to start making a whole bunch of changes on the fly. You don't really know what you've done, and you'll never know if you've made it better or worse. All right, step 1, we're going to save this project. So we're going to close out and we are going to make ourselves a new copy, because we know that version 1.8 is okay. But we want to duplicate this out to see if we can make version 1.9 even better. So this is what we've got here. Let's jump back over. We're going to hit the B key or tap that plugins. We're going to hit the X key or tap the mixer to get back to our main view. So here's the main view of our overall project. We can pinch it to get the whole thing in one window. And this is our song. So if you're not familiar with it, we hit the space bar to play it. Space bar again. So again, I'm reasonably happy with where we're at with the overall mix, but we are going to try these few things. So let's start from the top. The snare sounds a bit too harsh. Now we're using the auto drummer, so there's a few things we can do to combat a harsh snare. Let's just solo this by hitting the S key on this one. There we are. Why won't the S key work? We'll just tap the solo button. I'm sure the S key is our solo button. Still getting my head around the keyboard shortcuts. Let's just play these drums. So we've got a nice brush snare, and it's a pretty snappy kind of snare, but it is sounding a little bit too harsh, and there's a couple of things we can do with this. If we come into the editor window here, we open up this one, we can see that the intensity here is actually quite high on this, because I kind of just set it and forget it. I haven't played around with these too much. So what we can try is, if we reduce the intensity of this, what's it going to do to our snare? So we'll do that, we'll hit play, and we'll move this down. Back up. So can you hear how you're getting less of that crack from the snare? So I'm thinking we might need to dial our snare down throughout this song, or at least for most parts, maybe apart from the chorus, down to that middle level of intensity. Let's bring this back into the mix with the intensity down, see what it sounds like. Not bad. And what we may need to do now, because that snare was really loud, we may need to just bring this up a couple of dB just so that the drums kick through the mix a little bit better. Now, the other thing we can do here in Logic Pro, which is different to things like GarageBand, is we can check out the Drum Kit Designer. Now, to do that, we're going to tap here on the Plugins button, and we'll make sure that the drum track is selected. As we come up to the top here, tap on the drum track, and we'll double tap the Drum Kit Designer. So there's a couple of things we can do here. We can adjust the tone and the dampening on this snare. So at the moment, the snare tone is set at that 90 cent, the dampening's at 56%, and the gain is at 2 dB. So we won't change too much of this, or we're going to completely change our mix, but let's just play along with this one and see what it sounds like. So what we can do is, if we say grab this gain button, I'll show you what the gain does. This will really adjust the snare sound.
What is this feeling?
And you can hear there that when we've gone into this next section, things have changed because the intensity's gone back up. So we probably just need to gain that snare down a little bit. The dampening here, I think we can leave the same, but let's just sample that again. With the dampening all the way up, you're going to get that muted kind of snare sound. I actually think we might reduce the dampening, so probably go around about the 20% on the dampening of the snare. Yep, I reckon that's about right. And you can hear there that some of those snare hits are going to be a bit louder because that's what the drummer does. It will change those up. So what we can do is, we've adjusted these, but we've only adjusted them for that one little bit of drum track. But what we can do is, if we select all of these drum tracks, so if we tap outside, I'll show you where I'm tapping here, tap outside, drag across all of them, what we can do is actually adjust everything at once. So because we know we want the intensity around that middle mark for everything, we can pop that to there. Let's put our snare dampen to 18%, our snare gain to a +1 dB there. And then what we should find is, as we tick through all of these, they've all been adjusted to that level. So everything that we've changed should have the same. Oh, no, it's dropped the intensity. See there, it's gone. It's dropped the intensity by however much we've dropped it. So we may have to actually manually play around with some of these because they weren't all at the same level. So it's actually reduced it, because one that had a higher intensity reduced it down. So we may need to just adjust some of these because it's at a relative level there. So we'll just bring these all to put them right around the middle, which will just take a quick minute here. Did I mention I'm learning as we go here? Yeah, this is all real-time stuff. I could have gone in and learnt prior, but I'm learning as we go. And as we do the other sections of this, we'll check these drums, because if in a part they're sounding either too intense or not intense enough, we can definitely change that up. So we'll just come in here to these final couple of sections and check those, and there we go. So, because it will have changed up some of our fills and things, so we will have to be conscious of that. So that's a way that we can adjust our snare, again, using the intensity here, and then using our Drum Kit Designer. So play around with those if you're finding your drum sounds aren't doing exactly what you want them to do. Let's just come to a middle section here and see if these drums are still sounding okay.
Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I shout.
Yeah, so for instance, ones like this, if we come in here and we go to edit and we show these in the editor, this will have to bring the intensity up, and we may even need to bring the volume, do some automation of the drums in here to make them match the rest of our track. But if even with just that little intensity boost, we should find.
Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I shout out loud, sometimes I feel.
So yeah, we'll come back and play around with that later on to make sure that that's still going to work for us. My next note here is to automate the vocals up on the end low part. So what am I talking about with that? Well, if we come down here to the lead vocal, to this track here, you'll notice that at the end here, can you see, even with the waveform, you can see how low it goes on those last couple of words in particular. Now, we want a little bit of that variation, but we may just need to automate this up a little bit at the end to make this actually cut through the mix. I'll just show you what I mean, and then I'll show you what we can do about it.
'Cause I want to be alone, and I know you'll always be there in my heart.
So I think it's going to be okay because it needs to be kind of lower, but the in my heart, I think those words need to come up. So if we play it again.
Be there in my.
So basically from there, and we're going to need to do this on each of these phrases. So if we zoom in, we're pinching with or we're separating our fingers out, and we're going to line it right up onto this spot. The reason being is that we need to do a volume adjustment here. So to do that, we need to go to automation. So let's tap our automation button here, and we will want this to not be the insert. We want this to be the volume. Now I'm going to drag upwards to give myself a little bit more room here so I can see what's going on with this track. Now we're going to go up to the pencil icon here because we're actually just going to tap in some volume automation changes. So there's our spot that we want these to actually happen. We'll just make sure that we're in the right spot. In my, that's the bits we want. So we just need to tap in a point, tap in a second point, and this is where we need this to come up. So we're just going to drag it to the side, and we'll put a point at the end here so that we can bring it back to the regular volume afterwards. So we'll put it down to here, and that way we can use this middle section to just pull this volume up to whatever we want it to be. So I'm thinking a few dB. So it's at -6. I reckon if we bring it up to about -3, let's just see what this does for us. So we can come back here and try it again. Oops, it hasn't done it at the end there. We'll just grab another point here. I meant to have another point. Oh, add please. There we go. Added a point. And now we can bring this point back down to the -6.5 to have it go back to its regular volume. There we go. So let's see what this little increase is going to do here with our volume automation to our vocal.
Always be there in my heart.
Now it's a little bit too sudden there. So what I'm probably actually going to do is ramp this one up during that in my. So if we bring this across, we can actually make it a little more of a subtle increase across that word, and this is probably going to sound a bit more natural. Let's try this now.
Always be there in my heart.
That's better, but it's still too loud. So it's the subtlest of changes we need. I think we only need this to come up to about -4.8 there. So it's giving it the littlest tweak, and you might think, well, it's not really making much difference now, Johns, but every little bit like this, that's just going to make sure people can hear those lyrics. It's an important part of your final mix.
Always be there in my heart.
There we go. Now we're going to need to do the same thing in our other sections because we always have this happening. So down here.
I just need a moment, but I know you'll always be there in my.
So now that we've done it one time, it's a lot easier to do this. So again, just to show you how we do it, we'll come in here, we'll hit the pencil icon, and we'll tap these in. Now you can use your fader, you can turn the read and the write modes on, and you can actually use your fader to bring this sort of thing in. But I tend to just use these. I'm so used to using these, this way of doing it by just adding the dots in here and adjusting it, that this is the way that I tend to go. So let's come in here, zoom back on in, bring this up again. Whoop, we've added an extra point. We'll undo that. Control Z or Command Z. So go back to this mode here, and now we can just grab this and bring it on up. Where do we want to put it? Around about there. So let's listen to this one for our automation again. We'll come back a little bit.
There in my heart. Sometimes I'm angry.
Cool. Let's listen to the very end of the song because we do it one more time here and we may need this one to be even louder.
Yes, you know I'll always be there in your heart.
Yeah, we definitely need the help with the in your, so we'll bring it back up again here. So once again, we grab our pencil icon, third time's a charm, tap a couple of dots in here, and this time we don't need to worry about the end because it can just go up and stay up. So we're just going to grab this and I've made the same mistake again. There you go. I'm just showing you what not to do. So once you've added your points, tap the pencil off and come back to here. And now what we want to do is ramp this up, and we'll ramp it up to about there. We might even move it across. So we'll just grab it and drag it across. So it's just going to ramp this one up. Let's take a listen to this final bit of vocal now.
There in your
And we may even want that to go up a little more right at the end. So let's just tap in another quick change here. Bang, bang. Turn off the pencil, Johns. Thank you, I did. And then just bring this up to maybe make this last word just really cut through the mix. So there you go. You don't have to spend an age on automation. Go back to your main view by tapping this one, but just automating some of your vocals is going to help you out and it's going to improve your overall mix. Let's move on because I've got a couple of quick ones that we can do here now. Let's hit the E button to get rid of that edit window. We'll come on down here and grab this cello because I've got a note here that says remove the cello during the guitar solo. So the guitar solo is up here, as you can see, and what we'll do is we'll see what this sounds like before we actually remove it. Let's just mute out the cello coming in here to the guitar solo and see if that's going to sound good for us.
just need one moment.
I actually think the cello needs to stay, but what we can do is we can do the same sort of thing. I think just to bring out that guitar, because we've got the cello on the right and the guitar on the left there. I think I like having the cello there, but I want to just soften it a little bit. So we're again going to use automation. So we're tapping up here. Because this is a MIDI track, we can use automation in exactly the same way. It's no different here. So what we need to do is grab our pencil icon and make sure. In fact, we could automate the mute. No, we don't want to mute it. If we did want to mute it out, we could automate the mute to just mute it off and on again. Or you could just delete it. There's no real purpose to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of points here, just like we did with our vocal. So add 1 point there, add 1 point there. Just as it's coming back in here, we'll turn off the pencil and we'll just shimmy this to the side a little bit and then bring it back in. So what I'll do actually is I'll go to the end of this part just so that I can bring the volume back to its normal spot. We'll go to the end here, we'll add another couple of points. This is just the way I like to do it, just for simplicity. And then we can, instead of pulling up the points, we can pull up this bar in the middle. So just tap off to make sure that you've got nothing selected. And then when we actually select this bar in the middle, it'll bring the whole thing up or down. We want it to go down, so let's drop it down a little bit to reduce the volume. So we're going to go from this point here, which is sitting at what, about -8 down to -11. So it's a small volume drop that's going to happen here. Let's take a listen. Better. I think it's still there. I think it needs a second sort of harmony note to go along with that guitar solo, but I think it sounds better with the volume a little bit lower. So automation to the rescue once again. More reverb on the lead vocal is the next one that I say here. So I'm going to hit the mixer button or hit X on my keyboard to go to the mixer and then come down here to my lead vocal. Now there's a couple of ways that we can add reverb here. We've already got it going to our reverb bus. So let's just solo this vocal and listen to the amount of reverb that we've got on here. We'll go to a section where the vocals are playing.
Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I shout.
So We've already got quite a lot going through that reverb bus. Let's just turn this up and see if this is going to actually sound better.
Out, out loud, sometimes I feel you, like you are still.
I don't know that I agree with me. I think with the reverb's about right, because with that amount of reverb, you kind of get that. I don't know. It sounds almost tinny. Let's take a listen to it with the reverb all the way up.
I'm angry. Sometimes I shout out loud.
Yeah, I'm not too happy with that. So I actually like it back down here around about that 70% mark. Let's just play it there.
Sometimes I feel you, like you are still here.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I was thinking with this one. But the other thing I just wanted to show you that we can do here is we can add a plugin directly to that track. So if we tap the plugins button here, and I think I've actually had it on here. So I had this space designer on here to play around with this. So if we double tap on this one, what you could do, you can see here I've got a vocal plate on this one. So a vocal plate here with what, 30 set, whoop, no, with like just a little bit of wet signal going into there. I'll turn this all the way up just so that you can hear what it sounds like. And then maybe we'll dial in just a little bit of this.
But I know you'll always be there in my heart.
Do we have the right track selected there? It's always hard for me to visualize this. Oh, we didn't have the space designer on, so you can see that was a mistake I made. I turned the wetness all the way up, and I thought I would hear it really a lot. If you don't hear it, it may be that you're like me, you've got your plug-in turned off. Let's turn it back on, and we'll play this next section here.
Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I shout out loud. Sometimes I feel you, like you are still here. I know it gets better.
Yeah, maybe we do just dial in a little bit of that plate reverb, that vocal plate at the end of our chain there, or maybe we put it earlier than that. In fact, we'll probably just put it before this final little bit of EQ, otherwise we're going to get too much on the top end there. So we'll hit the edit button, bring this back into that part of our chain, hit the edit again, and there you go. So we've added a little bit in there, and we'll find out, because I'll need to go away and do some more listening now that I've made these changes. I've got no steps down on the viola at the end of the bridge. Yeah, this was something that was really bugging me. More of an arrangement thing, but there's nothing stopping you, especially because they're virtual instruments, there's nothing stopping you making these sort of changes if you want to. So what I'm talking about here is this viola here going down here at the end. So you can see here if we play it.
Just need one moment.
So what I actually want this viola to do is just stay on that note all the way through. So it's a very easy change. All we need to do is edit it. I'll get into the habit of using my editor button down the bottom here, or hit the E key, and we can go to our editor. We'll drag this one up so we can have a good look at what we're actually doing here. There is our... So that's our... Oh, we're on our cellos. We need to go to... This is the one. This is the one that we want to actually do this with. Now, why have we got two notes playing there at the same time? Let's just play this section, because I'm getting confused. Let's play.
Out loud, sometimes I feel you, like you are still here. I know it gets better. Just need one.
There's our spot. So we just want that note to carry through. And we're going to tap and actually delete and remove these. Right. So let's play this section now with its new arrangement. Hit spacebar.
Still here. I know it gets better. I know time will heal, but I just need a moment. Just need one moment.
That's better. I'm not sure that the note shouldn't sort of fall away a little bit towards the end there, just as I get to that last word. So maybe we need to use our old friend automation again. Let's just come back here to the main track view and listen to this again and just see if this is going to fit in the mix.
I know time will heal, but I just need a moment. Just need one moment.
Yeah, the cello continues on there, but I think this viola just needs to automate down the smallest amount here at the end. So we will do that. We'll come in here and we'll make sure that this automation is on volume, not panning. We'll go to our edit icon here and we will just bring this on down from there to there, and then we'll bring it back up again because we will need it again afterwards. We'll tap off and then bring this down to 0 just to see what this sounds like just tailing off here.
Just need a
It's a MIDI note, so we need to start the playback before that note, otherwise we won't hear it.
but I just need a moment. Just need one moment.
I think it needs to fade a little bit later than that and maybe not down to 0, just so it sort of falls off there at the end. Let's have a listen.
Need one moment. Need one moment.
Again, Pete, MIDI note. You have to play it from before the MIDI note.
But I just need a moment. Just need one moment.
Yep, even a little bit more subtle there. So automation, again, is your friend when it comes to balancing out your instruments, and that's why even just simple volume automation, which you can do in things like GarageBand, is all good. So we've fixed that one. The final thing we had here is I'd asked for more reverb on the drums. Now, there's a couple of options we have here with the drums. We can split these drummer tracks out to turn them into a drum tracks themselves, and that way we would have a lot more control over these. So if we come here, we can convert and we can convert to a MIDI region for this whole thing, and that way we can actually have control to basically put reverb on, say, the snare and other things. In fact, should we try it? Let's experiment, because I haven't actually done this in a real project before. So if we come here and we convert to MIDI region, there you go. It's going to give us all the drum MIDI notes here, and we can convert. Now, I think there's another button here that we can actually convert to a separate by not note pitch. There is a way that we can create. I might have messed it up now. I need to play with this more. You can actually separate these out into separate tracks, but it's not something that I've done in detail before. So maybe we'll just leave it and do it in a simple way here. So let's just say that I wanted to have reverb on everything here, a little extra reverb on everything but the kick drum. Well, we can separate out the kick drums by creating a new track here. We can duplicate this track out, and we can bring everything from here down to our next track. So if we tap and drag, and then we should be able to use actually the duplicate button here. And then can we just pull this down? Yes, we can. And what we'll do here is, in fact, this is going to be painstaking, isn't it? We'll need to connect all of these together so that we can actually do this. Do we do it? Do we try it? Why not? So we can select all of these. So we'll select everything here. This is experimental. We've got the original drums back in our other one if we need to. So let's join these. And we'll do the same with all these. So this is just going to join these MIDI drum performances together. Bad idea to do here because we hadn't really settled on those drums being exactly right. But we'll just undo all this at the end and then probably just throw reverb on the whole track because Pete's a bit lazy. But what we could do here is come into our edit window on this drum track, so on this first drum track. And if we find our kick drum, which we'll need to do, yeah, instantly regretting doing this because it's so there's our kick drums. So we can actually remove all the kick drums. So the kick drums here on this C3, we just get all of those, and we tap and we delete, So they're all gone from that track. And then this one becomes just our kick drum track. So what do? Well, we remove everything but it. So we do that, we tap and we delete. There's probably a much better way to do this. But hey, we're learning. We're learning as we go. And we will delete that as well. All right. Has this done what we need it to do? So let's just solo, because this has got, actually, we've got notes down here, which I don't even know exactly what they are and what they're doing. We'll just delete them anyway. Oh, and now we've got more up the top here. So there's more note information in here than I actually thought I had. So there's all our cymbals and our toms. So let's get rid of all those as well. It's very much more complicated amount of drums that we have here in Logic Pro. So what we should now have is a kick and a rest of our drums track. So let's play just the kicks here and make sure that they're working. There's our kicks. There's the rest of our everything. Nice. Together. Bring it back into the mix.
What is this feeling? My senses are numb.
And what we can now do, so you can see here that we've got our first drum track here, which is most of our drums going to the reverb bus. We can actually turn our kick drum off the reverb bus if we want 0 on that, and just put the reverb on the rest of the drums. Let's see what this is going to sound like.
I don't like complaining, but feelings they come, and I wish that they would go now, 'cause I want.
Pretty cool. So we got there. Am I going to go with it? Probably not. I'm probably just going to sacrifice having a little bit of reverb on that kick drum and reverting things back to the way we had them before, because I'll want to change around those drums a little bit like I did before. So to do that, by the way, let's undo, because I can redo this if I need to. Just keep hitting your undo button. We'll be able to see how many levels of undo we have, and if we've got enough here in Logic Pro to get back to those drummer tracks. There we go. Back to drummers, intact, ready to be adjusted. So we'll go through and adjust these to make sure that everything is working the way we wanted it to, because again, we probably want to change around some of the intensity of some of these drums, just so that in the chorus we have a little bit more intensity than we do in the other sections. So this is part of what we do here. What I do at this sort of part of the process is go through and hopefully we're doing no harm, and hopefully we're finding ways to improve our overall mix. So I hope you found some interesting ideas here, and you can use some of these tips and tricks, or maybe avoid them, and the ones that didn't work out so well in your projects. Thanks for watching this one. More Logic Pro videos down in the description, and I'll see ya next time.